All right. All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's get the show on the road. We'll kick it off with you, Raiden.
Hello.
Um, Let me just get the info up. Okay. All right. So, Raiden, this is your first review inside the
Yes.
programs. Glad to have you here. Beautiful. We got
Thank you.
ourselves some emeralds. You are a Lux enthusiast.
Yes.
Looking basically OTPing Lux at this stage, which is that's okay. We can definitely work with that. Average deaths are extremely high. Definitely need to get to the bottom of what is going on there. Now you're currently sitting in Emerald 2, been kind of sitting at a similar rank for quite a long time. Um, okay, so what are you noticing in your games? What are you struggling with, do you think?
It's kind of hard because I overthink a lot of different details, but if I had to sum it up, I think it's just consistency, but I don't know how to make that visible for me, tangible.
Okay. Okay, beautiful. Well, we'll take a look. We'll see where you're at. I love the level 1 ward here. Now, this game we are versing. Let me just quickly take a look at the composition here. So you're versing a baby Draven mid, Xayah mid,
Yeah, I
one
was
or the other.
surprised.
So you've got some threat here. I guess Briar has a little bit of dive. Nautilus has a little bit of dive. But for the most part, we should be okay to scale beautifully into the mid game. We've also got a very good multi-threat comp. So let's see where we're at. So as a general rule of thumb, if I'm ever versing an AD carry mid, the thought process is try to trim the wave, keep the wave relatively neutral if I can, time my abilities with last hits, not like that, and really just be a little bit respectful because AD carry mids are quite strong early. They have a very strong, typically pre first base, and then post first base they start to enter a power trough. Got to be very careful getting
Yeah.
into auto attack range of an AD carry.
Yeah, here's where I probably realized that just walking up to proc my pass wasn't even worth it either, because he does too much
Yeah,
damage.
exactly right. Probably not. I think you're really going to have to keep your distance. And like I said, typically when I'm versing a lot of these AD carries early game, just minimize, relax, focus on your farm. We definitely don't want to be getting in auto attack range. So yeah, a lot of these trades here very unnecessary. And the same premise exists into basically it doesn't matter if you're versing, a Quinn mid, a Caitlyn mid, a Xayah mid, basically any AD carry mid for that matter, actually.
Yeah.
So it's a good rule of thumb to follow. And so a lot of what we're seeing right now is a lack of understanding of the matchup, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing, the passive on the Draven thinking, yippee, I want to go ahead and proc the passive, but in the process of doing so, getting an axe to the face and kind of slightly losing out on those trades.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I played versus a Draven mid, so I was a bit
Yep.
experimenting.
Yeah, and one thing that I have noticed so far, just in your lane, is that you're not doing an overly good job of timing your trades with last hits. Um, so like this Q here is never gonna land,
Yeah.
never in a million years. It's a complete waste of mana. And so what's actually happening at a high level in this lane, it's actually very, very common with a lot of people when they're unfamiliar with the matchup, is they start getting so focused on trades that their CS goes to shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to go back here just a little bit. Okay, so it looks like Briar is doing a top to bot, which does make sense with the double tank top lane. I just wanted to double check the path here at Briar. Okay, it looks like Rek'Sai is coming around hovering for a gank here. We may be able to make something happen. Just from a positioning perspective, by the way, if you wanted to bait Draven here, you would move over here, right? If you move over here, that's going to incentivize this guy to go down here,
Yeah.
closer to your Rek'Sai. Right? Because notice how you're pushing Draven away now from the Rek'Sai. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know why, I just assume Draven players will always be very cocky, so if I walk up, they will walk up. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so a little bit of a blunder there. I mean, look, I would say here, I would even recommend using your E first, maybe even for the slow.
Yeah.
Like kind of E first, hold, get the slow, see what the Draven does, and then go for the Q. It's very, very hard to land Q with Draven, zipping around with that movement speed. So I don't blame you for missing, but I would say that the E was definitely something that could have been optimized
Yeah.
there. All right, so we definitely need to look for a recall here. Lovely. Now, this Draven, I believe, went like heal or barrier or something. So, yeah, heal. So he does not have TP. Gives us a little bit of an advantage here. So you can either just last it or you can actually hard shove. Either are viable options. Now, your itemization's a bit odd. I don't know if I fully agree with the early cloth armor. I don't really think it... You shouldn't really be getting auto attacked by a Draven as Lux because you're so much higher ranged. So what I would recommend instead is fundamentally just what's it called? Is probably getting like either a dark seal or even just a refill. I just don't really think the cloth armor is going to do that much for you.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so we come back. Briar loops around because Briar did a top to bot. We get a little bit chunked here. So priority number one in this scenario is not trying to kill the Briar. What your priority here is actually to try and shove into another recall. Because remember, you don't have TP. And what is Draven likely doing here? He's likely basing. So the challenge you're going to face now, because you've wasted your time trying to chase the jungler, is that Draven's going to be back any second, and you're going to have no resources and also no TP.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very important to always value your own condition, your own situation. Don't worry about chasing out the jungler. Right? Whether your Rek'Sai gets a double scuttle or not, it's not really that important. Yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that what do I say? Like these are like the habits where when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's so obvious. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I do a lot with a friend on the bot lane, and so we tend to do a lot of clown fiesta. So I think that has
Yeah.
rubbed on me when I'm playing mid as well.
Yeah, you've probably picked up some bad habits there, just sticking around with your friends, and it does. I have seen that, by the way. I have seen that as a thing. People who play a lot of normal games, especially on their main champions, if they play their main champions in normal games, they pick up some seriously bad habits.
Yeah.
So as a Lux, your entire thought process here needs to be, getting to my level 6 so I can look for a shove into a reset. That's your goal here because you're on limited resources, right? So wait for the next wave to crash, and then we can look for just pop the wave with your E, your EQR. Okay, comes Rek'Sai. Nice little Q. Beautiful. Okay. Good. I'm glad that you didn't chase there. Use it as a shove into a reset. Well done. Really, really, really good. Good discipline. It's exactly what I want to see. I would like to see a refill here, if personally, but that's okay. Personal preference at the end of the day. Just having no pots can be a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
So we see bot lane doing a pretty good job. The rest of the game's okay. So priority number one as a Lux, what we want to do is we really want to make sure that we are getting our vision down, warding and leaning, and try to time our poke with last hits. We don't really want to be running around the map with no ultimate like this. So we want to get back in lane, establish vision, and because we still have no flash available, we need to be a little bit careful. Lux doesn't want to be also getting shoved in. We want to be the person shoving the enemy in. Right. So what I want to see here is, I guess you have two options. You could probably try to pop the wave with your E here with the intention to just quickly, maybe get the wave as fast as humanly possible, then ward. Alternatively, what you could have done as you were walking back to lane here is you could have actually just quickly ducked off and got a ward on that bot side. So here, duck off over here, get a ward here, boom, that's going to give you a beautiful side to lean onto, and then we can go ahead and just play the lane. But either way, we need to get a ward out at some stage.
Yeah, that ward was probably better because the reason I didn't pop the entire wave there because I saw Dragon was up and I was afraid that if I pop that wave, I have to completely shove it and then Briar would surprise me from the back. So that's why I hesitated.
Yeah. So yeah, the ward preemptively makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
All right. Nonetheless, we get the wave out. Beautiful little ward window. Looks like we're going for a hover here. I think hovering topside makes a little bit more sense given that your Rek'Sai is on topside and Briar is doing the grubs here.
Those are also things I struggle with. Like sometimes I have a bit of a brain fog of whether I should hover top or bot.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that because I want to talk about one thing that I'm noticing is I think you're struggling to understand what your job is here. So Lux is a very El Clasico kind of zone control mage. That's what she is. She loves getting to areas, controlling chokes, and really making people come to her. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the major reference point with Lux is you really want to try to get to these areas first, get to these kind of river scenarios first, such that again you're the one making them come to you. Now, in terms of reference points outside of that, I guess there's two or three things that I'm thinking about as a Lux. Number one, where is my jungler and what are they doing? Right? Is my jungler invading? Are they ganking top? Are they doing grubs? Are they doing dragon? What are they doing? Right? Because your jungler is going to give you a pretty large indication of where the next major play is going to happen, right? And the earlier you can know, right, the play is going to happen, the easier it's going to be for you to get into a good position.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's the first thing. The second thing is what is the next major neutral objective, and are we going to be contesting one of them anytime soon? Right? In an even game state, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to start any. So again, that's where I would defer to my jungler's location. And then typically outside of that, number three, all I'm trying to do is take good quality trades, ward and lean, and make sure that I have, first move into the river to the best of my ability. That's really it. And then scale beautifully into those mid-game team fights. Okay. So that's why vision, leaning, and then hyper awareness of what my jungler is doing is really important. Does that kind of all make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I usually think
Okay,
about, oh, bot lane is having a rough time. Maybe I can give them a get out of jail free card somehow, and then that kind of idea.
Yeah, yeah. You never really want to think about like helping others, especially if they're behind. You want to direct most of your attention towards who else on your team is doing well, right? And what is my jungler doing? You want to think proactively, not defensively in League. All right, so Draven's likely recalling, so we look for a hard shove into a reset. Rek'Sai gets a good gank off on bot side. Looks like Briar is maybe moving towards the dragon. Don't think there's much we can do about that for now. Briar shows bot. Okay. Okay, nice little ward window. I am not really a massive fan of, I mean, you can ward deep, but just as a general rule of thumb, when you're playing a mobile control mages, you typically want to ward for yourself.
Okay.
Right? So warding here is suffice because the goal in lane when you're playing these mages is, again, to make sure you're always able to lean to one side.
I should play more selfishly.
This is a high percentage roam. Yeah, exactly. Play more selfishly. I don't mind this roam. I think it makes sense. Your jungler's in the area, your team's in the area. It's a very high percentage play. Okay. Lovely. That's pretty straightforward. Well done. Okay.
A question: does it make sense to make those deep wards if Dragon is coming up and Rakan is hovering me for safety? Does that make sense? Change the...
Yeah, I mean, deep wards are good when the lane phase is over or when you feel like you're not personally under threat.
Okay.
All right, they're the two major reasons. All right, so this is where the game is going to get a little complicated here. I do want to just quickly highlight a few things here.
Yeah.
And you are in Emerald, in High Emerald, so I do want to spend a little bit of time getting into the macro here, just so you fully understand, okay? So, what happens typically when bot lane tower breaks?
They start roaming, I think.
Right, well, typically, your AD carry and support want to rotate mid, right? Would you tend to agree with that or not?
Yeah, that usually happens, yes.
Yep. Yeah, that usually happens, okay? So the challenge of a mid laner in that scenario when your AD carry and support go mid is that you're now, as a mage, having to play the side lane a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so in order to make your life easier, especially when you're playing mages who struggle with terrain scaling and mobility and running around the map, TP comes in handy, doesn't it? It's a really good kind of band-aid solution for the fact that you don't have mobility.
Yeah.
So if something were to happen topside around a Rift Herald in a few minutes, and TP can come in handy to TP there and kind of be there for that play. And so whenever I'm moving into the mid game, and especially when the towers have already broken, I really want to be extremely careful about using my TP back to lane, because I know that that's going to really come in handy in the mid game. So what I would have done here is I would have pinged my Ezreal back. I would have got this wave. I would have told Ezreal to recall and go mid, and then I would have stayed bot, maybe got the wave, and then recall for my item. Right. And then
Okay.
what would have happened is that, yeah, sure, we might lose a plate mid, but I would rather lose one plate and conserve my TP than use my TP here.
Yeah.
Because now the challenge you're going to face is that, look at this. If you go mid, your Ezreal's going to go bot, and it's just going to get a little bit awkward because in an ideal world, you're the one that's probably bot. Ezreal's in mid, and it would lead to your team having a little bit more
Yeah.
control. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and the question, what if you're really fed? Does it make sense to stay mid to have more control on both sides, top and bot?
Yeah, I guess if you're really fed and you're way stronger than your bot lane, even in a 1v2 scenario, then yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But that's not really the case here,
No.
in my opinion. All right. Can do this. We've got to be careful though. All right. Okay, so you got to be really careful with over roaming as a mage.
Yeah.
Okay. Your farm is very, very, very important. So the two major reference points, remember what I said here before. What is the next major neutral objective and where is my jungler? Okay. And so here, if we freeze frame right now, the next major neutral objective is spawning topside and your jungler is on topside. And so that doesn't mean you can't roam, but what it does mean is that you need to be only looking for high percentage roams. And so I would hover, and then I think honestly here, I would probably just walk back mid. Or and if it looks like an extended play, great. So like as soon as they say that Nautilus arc, that's fine. And now disengage. Play's done. Briar's in the area. My direct says I want to go back mid. And what that would have done is you would have successfully defended your bot lane. You wouldn't have overcommitted. You would go back mid, not miss any farm, and you wouldn't get yourself into some sort of 3v3 away from your jungler. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So that's why this play doesn't work, because now your jungler's not here. Your jungler's making a play elsewhere, and the Briar was able to defend.
Yeah, I've been thinking too much
Something to keep in mind.
defensively, trying to keep the bot lane safe.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, never ever think about keeping someone safe. It's more about, again, just playing high, making high percentage decisions. Okay. Okay. I mean, your team was probably going to need some assistance there. It would have been good to maybe back them up there. Did you not see the enemy collapsing as you were walking back mid, or you just thought they were dead regardless?
I saw them, but I wasn't sure if we were gonna win with the Shen and Briar, so I decided to push the wave first.
Okay. So you just let the Malphite. So in which case, then ping back. If you want to just let Malphite die, just ping back, and let because then you're not kind of gaslighting your Rek'Sai, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So we got Rift coming up on top side. Right. So what I would want to be doing here is I would want to be establishing, just getting my prio and then hovering out of vision on top side in preparation for a Rift. That'd be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, I notice I'm constantly going bot or hovering bot.
Yeah, you're constantly going bot. Exactly right. Yeah, chain CC. Beautiful. Pretty straightforward. Should be able to turn that into a Rift Herald here in an ideal world. So what I'd be doing is I'd be communicating my intention to my jungler because I would really want to do a Rift. Right? So that was a free Rift Herald that we just missed. All right, so Dragon's coming up in 50 seconds. Looks like this guy kind of gets collapsed on. That Shen R, Briar R, and Nautilus are down, so that's okay.
I was trying to set up for the Rek'Sai, but I didn't expect Shen to do so much damage.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been good to maybe space the Shen taunt maybe a little bit more effectively there. But again, good. I mean, you don't know what you don't know in terms of Shen damage. So, I mean, I don't want to be too critical. When I look at that, I'm thinking this is just a very, very weird play. You would never really want to intentionally get taunted by a Shen. It's just like, just space, tether, keep distance. You don't need to do anything fancy. You don't need to be faker, right? The game is very straightforward, right? You've got clear as day reference points. Your bot lane is doing okay. Your jungler's doing okay. You're doing okay. Creative playmaking like this, like, hey, I'm gonna bait this guy in and get taunted and get CC'd, and then we're gonna kill them. It's like, well, yeah, sure, you can do that sort of shit when you're behind or you need to do something fancy to get your way back into the game.
Yeah.
But the game's already over. The game's a free win from this point. All you got to do is just get to neutral objectives, play the front to back, and you're gonna win. Right? This is you're giving them windows back into the game. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so Dragon is up, so we TP in, try to make something happen here, control those choke points. Doesn't look like they're going to contest. And so the giant problem moving into this game and moving into the mid game has been that the lane assignments have been permanently fucked because we've never got your Ezreal mid. And so, until your Ezreal and your Rakan go mid, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to establish control.
Yeah, here's an absolute fiesta.
Well, this is a fiesta that you created.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a fiesta that you created. Why are we walking into topside river here?
I'm not sure what I was doing here.
Right, we had just got the dragon. Right, our Malphite's basing, Ezreal's catching bot. Rek'Sai's catching Krugs. This is not our river to contest, right? Typically, what happens in these scenarios is a split map. They lost the fight. They're going to give dragon. They're going to trade it for a Rift Herald. This is what we call a split map scenario. Okay, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to be a hero and get vision on top side, but this vision doesn't mean anything because we already know they're here anyway. So all you need to be doing here is covering mid wave and then maybe swap with Ezreal or cover mid wave, reset, whatever. But we should never be looking to make a play. Again, notice how the entire game you've been completely desynced with your jungler.
Yeah.
And now because look at this, you're notice how as well you're influencing with your body language. You're basically telling your team, guys, let's fight. You're walking up. You're the one moving up aggressively, which is telling your team that you want to fight. Again, we get taunted. You're baiting your Malphite into a fight, and now before you know it, your Rek'Sai's on the way thinking, fuck, I got to help my team. Ezreal's basing on bot side. You've created this entire fiesta for no reason. That was all your fault. That whole thing. And the reason you did that is because you didn't know what to do. You just waddled into topside because you had no overarching reference point. You're just lost. You're completely lost. That's why this is a manifestation of you being confused. You don't know what's next. So in your mind, it's like, oh, they might be around topside. Maybe I could poke them. Maybe I could do something. This is only happening because you don't know what else to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure how to, I don't know, like discipline? Keep it disciplined? I easily get roped in. No?
It's not a question of discipline. Discipline is when you know what to do.
Okay.
But you're struggling with emotional regulation. I don't think you genuinely know what to do. Right? And the reason I'm very confident in saying that is because this whole mid game, you've been hovering in the wrong places. You haven't called for neutral objectives and you haven't swapped the lane assignments. The way you win games as Lux, and as I see it, is that you're very good at just rocking up to these team fights, pressing a few buttons, doing a bit of damage, and then that's that, right? And that's fine, right? You've got your particular skill set with your Lux, but it will cap out at a certain point. You win the way you win your Lux games is via fighting, like this. This is the way you win. You group on some team fight, and yippee, we're going to kill them and land some abilities, and this is good up until a point. So it's nothing actually to do with discipline. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I see it now. I do too much team fight. Yeah, I didn't realize until you mentioned it now. It's all starting to process.
Yeah, and that's what my job is here, to make it very clear as to what's actually going on. So like so I'm not saying this grouping is bad. This grouping here is not bad. The reason this grouping here is not bad is because okay, let's get specific, right? What is Lux's identity? Lux is a front-to-back oriented control mage. And so the good thing about this, Lux loves ARAMs. Lux loves sieges. She loves ARAMs. She loves front-to-back team fights. This is an El Clasico front-to-back team fight. You're sitting behind your front line. You're pegging your abilities from a distance. and you're, this is a pretty stock standard organized team fight. And if people are coming into you like this, Shen's taunting in your face, Bryce running in your face, look how easy it is to just sit back, relax, and just throw throw abilities at people. Right? This is what Lux thrives at.
Yeah.
Now before, right, this is what you did before was very, very different to what you did, here. So again, same thing. Reference point. What should we be thinking about coming out of base? What is the next major neutral objective? Atacon. Okay, so now we've got our eyes set on Atacon, especially since we're ahead. So now what we need to do is make sure we're putting our body in the area around the next major neutral objective, controlling choke points, establishing vision, and making the enemy come towards us. Right, this is good. Okay. Gets a little bit messy. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Lovely. And now same thing again. What are we seeing out of base? Right? Dragon is the next major neutral objective. Right? We don't give a shit about this Shen, in my opinion. Right? This whether these two tanks just slap each other there, that doesn't bother us. The most important thing is that we are at this next major neutral objective nice and early to control the chokes. Now, the way we do that is we go through mid. We move in together through mid. We get on this mid wave together. We make them react to the wave. Then we move in.
Okay.
At this stage of the game, control wards, and also if you're really far ahead, red trinket also goes a long way, because if your Lux is the queen of fog of war, right? If the enemy don't know where you are, then hitting abilities gets very easy. Contesting rivers like you're doing right now is typically not overly sustainable because you haven't made them react to anything, right? So, like, again, the way to pull them out of the river is by making them react to midwave, and then you guys can move in. So I would be where Ezreal is here. That's where I would be. I'd be where Ezreal is. I'd be pinging assistance on that midwave, hovering mid, shoving in that midwave, and then moving in together as a team.
Yeah, otherwise you're just hiding as well, because we're not forcing anything, so they don't have to force anything either.
Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes, if you run in like this, you're just going to face check face check things. But the rest looks pretty straightforward from here. Yeah, it looks like we go for a bit of a siege. Lovely. I'm typically not a big fan of sieging tier 3s, but Zaya's top, so it looks like we can maybe look for something. Nice. Okay, the rest of this doesn't really matter. So, with where you're at in your journey right now, you've got a multitude of problems that need to be fixed over a long period of time. We're not going to do everything at once, but just for the sake of you having clarity over your journey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all the areas, and then we're going to prioritize, okay? Okay, so there is definitely room for improvement with your ability usage. You have a tendency to rush abilities. You need work in terms of timing your abilities with last hits. In team fights as well, you are just kind of throwing your abilities out there rather than being a little bit more intentional. So you need to slow down, and as a result, you're also just missing a lot of skill shots in key fights. So this would be one area that definitely needs to be revisited at some stage. The second layer is that you take a back seat when it comes to the macro game. You don't really communicate your intent. So like the whole communication about what you want is basically non-existent. On top of that, you don't really know how to play around the next major neutral objective and create favorable scenarios for Lux in the mid game. And this ties into Lux's reference points in terms of actually, getting to those neutral objectives nice and early, controlling chokes, and then also playing in accordance to your jungler's location. These would be kind of the two major things that we're kind of missing in our mid-game macro. Yeah. And on top of that, we've also got problems with some of your lane assignments. So I guess that loops into your mid-game macro and also your TP usage. And then I guess another layer would be there'd be probably some matchup understanding issues that we'll need to bridge later on, on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. Now, in terms of prioritization, I don't think ability usage is the big fish to fry. I don't think matchup understanding is the big fish to fry. I think these things are the things that are going to give you the most bang for buck value. Yeah. So what I would suggest the first practical learning objective would be an in-game learning objective. And this in-game learning objective, you're going to gather 2 pieces of information. The first one is you're going to be hyper aware of what your jungler is doing. Now, this doesn't mean you're just going to follow what your jungler does at every point in time, but knowing where your jungler is gives you a rough indication of what sort of plays are likely going to be happening, where you're likely going to need to hover, where you're likely going to need to place your vision, where the next play is likely going to happen. It's going to allow you to get to positions nice and early.
Yeah.
All right. So that would be priority number one. I guess the first piece of information. The second piece of information is what is the next major neutral objective and when is it actually coming up? Right? Because if you know that, let's say Rift Herald is coming up in 40 seconds, that's going to give you an indication of, okay, well, fuck, I gotta have a solution to that. Am I going to group there preemptively? Am I going to TP in there? Am I going to what's going on? So having an awareness of what the next major neutral objective is, and if you can, even communicating that, you go a very long way moving into the mid game. Okay.
Yeah.
So these would be the 2 pieces of information that I want you to be obsessed with in the LoL states and really gathering these kind of pieces of information as often as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I would say the second thing, so that's an in-game learning objective, by the way. In the post-game, what I want you to do is that I want you to go over your first true deaths as well as your I would say core true average fights or average, let's just say average fights. These are fights that maybe didn't go too well. They went maybe not amazing, not terrible. And what you're going to do in both of these scenarios is you're going to look at them through the micro and macro lens. Okay, so you're going to go first and you're going to look at it through the ability usage. You're going to say, okay, could I have used my Q better, my E better, my R better, my W better? You're just going to take a look at it through an ability usage lens. But then you're going to say to yourself, why am I here? Does this really make sense? Am I playing with my team? Am I running into the enemy? Am I making a play on the wrong side of the map? Am I running into no vision? Is this fundamentally a good place to be? Does it make sense with Lux's reference points? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could do this for those 2 major pivotal things, or sorry, 2 major pivotal fights, and let's say two major deaths, I think what this will slowly start to do is start to realize, especially after this session, wow, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. What the hell, my jungler's bot side or my team is recalling. Why am I moving in here? You'll start to realize you're putting yourself in scenarios that don't really make sense with the map state.
Yeah,
Okay.
with this game, I think I realized as well, like I'd only have 2 deaths, but those 2 deaths, I felt really hard that it could lose me the entire game.
Yeah, exactly right. It just so happened that your Rek'Sai and your bot lane were doing a pretty good job. Exactly right. If this game was close, this would have been very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And so this is obviously already a lot of work in the post game. And then the only other thing I would add here is that if there's any of these kind of maybe confusing macro moments, whether it's, well, I don't know what to do about this neutral, I don't know what to do with the lane assignment, I don't know what to do about this death, what I want you to do is I want you to clip it, put it in the VOD question channel, and we can break it down together.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
That's it. Keep it really simple. And if you can, take a look at maybe some of the Lux content in the guide, specifically the mid-game stuff. I think that will go a very long way for you.
Wait, that's on the website, right?
Yep.
I'll look for that. Okay.
Did you have any other questions?
No, this has been. I always knew it was something. I just didn't know what. This just helps me make it more visible. So I'm just soaking in. I completely agree.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Think I'll.
Beautiful.
Do I have to spam? Do you recommend like spamming like 30 games before doing a next review of this, or?
So what I would recommend is try this whole process for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and if you can come by again in 3 weeks, then we can see where you're at and maybe give you some new learning objectives.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you. Can I stay and watch the others do it while being quiet?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Final Omen.